mixed bag earnings and mixed bag markets this week. It's been an interesting and fascinating week, as we expected, with so much stuff going on, with a lot of earnings, a lot of macro stuff. Let's move to the next slide. Dow, Nasdaq, S&P, and Russell 2000. I mean, it's close. It's going to be real close, but they could end up red for the second consecutive week. Big tech earnings were this was the mixed bag, man. I mean, Google was up, but AMD was down, Meta was down, Microsoft was down, Amazon, looks like it's going to end up being up close to 200. Apple, kind of down flat, right? So it's really kind of a mixed bag this week. Inflation indicators, Fed's preferred indication, and the Fed's preferred inflation indicator was a little hotter than expected, which means we could be seeing more rate cuts potentially. It's good for the rate story. Also, also good for the rate story. Non-farm payrolls this morning. This is the last one before the election, and they rose 12K, which is a big miss. Likely impacted by the hurricanes. Can't forget about those earlier in the month. Dollar is losing ground for the first week in the last 5, but Bitcoin and gold also hit highs on the week, record highs this week. So kind of interesting there. And then lastly, talk about these bonds. Treasuries had the biggest monthly rout in 2 years on the bets of less aggressive rate cuts. But of course, they rose today, which means maybe we're getting more. We'll see what happens. So I got a couple of charts for you. Let's move to the next slide. Yeah, this is the one. I mean, this is the last several weeks of the yield curve. Each week we've been higher. We've seen 10-year upwards of 4.3%. I have obviously faded this move in bonds. Obviously, you guys have too. This has been a crazy move. Tell me more about what do you think?
Yeah, it's been a crazy move. It's been extended. It's one of the more vicious sell-offs I think I can remember in a long, long time.
I just think this is one of the better trades on the board, being long bonds here, honestly. So that's what I've been.
I couldn't agree with you more. We're buying them on every downtick.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the influence has been over the last couple of weeks. I don't even care.
You talk about scalping. I think you can scalp bonds, and from both sides, no doubt. I like Tom and your side of buying them first and then selling them, buying them on a dip and then selling them if they get a rally. But you could trade both sides because they have gone both sides.
Yeah, you can. It's just the worst thing about this is you don't want to get caught at the bottom. Trying to that's the thing.
Selling them. Yeah.
And you've been able to sell some vol in the options too, right? I mean, those are some of the higher options vol on the board. I mean, not like implied wise, just implied vol rank wise, some of the higher stuff on the board. Let's move to the next slide. As a result, saying the same thing here. This move index is the highest. It's like a 1-year high that we've seen. This is how you know. There's a lot going on in the bond area. When you look at the Bank of America Move Index, it's really been surging recently. As a result, we've been seeing bond vol pretty high. So you can get in there and sell it.
Continues to be high. Yes, agreed.
Also elevated is equity volatility. VIX yesterday closed a little bit above 23. VVIX is above 121. This is the volatility risk premium chart where you take the difference between VIX and historical vol. Historical vol has been fairly low, probably jumped a little bit after yesterday's move, but historical vol has been really low, and that's why you're seeing this metric fairly high, and you're able to, there's a lot of, I like to sell a lot of names after earnings. You can look at the JP Morgans of the world and Goldman Sachs. Those are elevated IVR, and they have no earnings coming out. Lots of opportunities to make plays. These are the type of plays that you will find on Options Trade Today podcast. These are the type of things that Tony loved to go after. Things that implied vol rank is elevated and there's no earnings. Am I right, Tony? What?
100%. That's my ball wax. That's what
I know. You ever watch that, Tom? Options Trade Today?
I mean, I don't watch it. Occasionally I'll listen to it. I can't watch the video.
Man, this is year-to-date performance. Gold spot. It's like gold and the S&P versus everything else return-wise. Dollar's a little bit up there, but yeah, bonds. This has been the picture so far. I do wonder what this is going to look like in the next 2 months. I do think there's just been a lot of noise over the last month or so that has really dragged bonds down. It's going to be interesting to see where we end up on the year here with bonds, with gold. With bonds and dollar. Gold, I'm pretty sure, is going to end somewhere around here towards the end of the year, and we'll see what SPYs does. But just an interesting year when you see gold is one of the best performing things on the year, along with the S&P 500. I bet there's a lot of people, if you told them at the beginning of the year, they wouldn't necessarily believe it, but here we are.
You're right.
Yeah, crazy. I agree.
Let's move to the next slide. I keep saying this, though. You ever notice like the times where gold and silver are really outperforming in the market, and you get those cheesy commercials on TV about like buying and selling. I really haven't seen those. Have you?
No, I haven't seen as many as usual. I have been getting this scam kind of emails, hey, you want to buy this gold bullion coin and stuff like that, and gold percentage it's up year after year for the last 20 years, outperforming stocks by 4,000%. That thing. It's really good. It's really good.
Speaking of the thousands of percent, after a 2,000% run in 2 years, SMCI has been rocked. More recently, some are saying this is one of the things that are showing the AI trade is kind of over, but I don't think so. I mean, you've seen a couple of names. Well, I don't know. Maybe this is some kind of
Nvidia would beg. The Nvidia price would beg to differ, but SMCI looks like it's more of a fraud thing than a AI trade.
But and actually speaking of Vecchio, he reminded me of this. SMCI is like Nvidia's third largest customer. So how does that work? If there's a fraud with a company that's your third largest customer, do you just keep that money that they've already paid you? You do, right? I mean, you don't return that money, right? This is not going to affect Nvidia, right?
No, that's not going to affect Nvidia. But if they're the third largest customer and they're no longer around, then it does.
Yeah, right. There'll be somebody else to step up, I'm sure. DJT had a 54% range on the week. Or I should say in the past 4 days, the week's not over yet. But election odds swung around this week. So did DJT. Big moves. Was halted a couple of different times yesterday. This thing has moved a lot. I know a lot of people are trading it. Do you guys got anything on here?
I don't. We traded a little bit. We did some ratio spreads in there a couple days ago, and we scalped them. I have no position on there now. I think the stock's down about $2 pre-market.
It is 33 and change. You are correct, Sadnov.
Yeah. But it's been all over the place. The out of the money call skew in there was ridiculous. I mean, it's trading for like 350% volatility.
Yeah.
It's trading like it's going to 10 or 80.
Yeah, it's wild.
But it doesn't make any sense because it doesn't, I don't understand why it would go to 10 or 80, but whatever. Yeah. That's what the volatility is saying.
That's what the volatility is saying. Tom, this pertains to you. Comcast is considering spinning out their cable networks as a separate company. You still have time to get on YouTube TV if you want, but they're looking to change things up here. Dollar, again, takes a breather for the first time in 5 weeks. So, of course, next week we have the presidential election on Tuesday. We got the FOMC policy meeting, which is a little bit elevated higher in vol, on Thursday, November 7th. And then we got CPI report the week after that. And research this week, OJ, probability of profit may be deceiving. Check that.